Perhaps the Texans' worst injury news yet, and a lot of concern heading into Baltimore. Bobby Slowik, first-year offensive coordinator, he speaks. He might make you feel a little better. Let's go inside the locker room 2 days away from Texans versus Ravens.
Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room.
Perhaps the worst news the Texans have gotten on the injury front heading into their matchup against Baltimore. It is the locker room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 610 and the Odyssey app. That's 10 to 2 Central. You can see me right here in the locker room, number one source for digital content. Got you covered. Talk to players, coaches throughout the week. This week, we got to visit with Frank Ross, special teams coach. Had some fun with him. We're at every game. We're in the actual locker room after. So keep it here if you want the pulse of what's going on with the Texans. Subscribe, like, right along. Some bad news for the Texans today. It was feared, and now it's reality. Jimmy Ward ruled out of Sunday's game against Baltimore. This is the most significant injury that the Texans have suffered heading into this game. I think the offensive line might be able to be minimized by Bobby Slowik. I think once you hear Bobby Slowik speak, you might actually feel a little bit better about that situation. But Jimmy Ward, a guy who was voted as team captain by his teammates, a guy who was just on the fringe of the NFL's top 100 list, a guy who was on that list a couple of years ago, one of the most versatile safeties in the league. He can cover, he can hit. Jimmy Ward will not play, which is a big deal. Now, it could be minimized by some news coming out of Baltimore. I'll give you that on the back end of this video. But the Jimmy Ward thing is big. Blake Cashman also out, as is John Mechie. And I don't think Mechie's ready to contribute anytime soon. I don't know when he's going to be ready to do that. And quite frankly, might be unrealistic to expect at this point. But the Jimmy Ward thing, make no mistake about it, the Jimmy Ward news is big news for the Texans. D'Amico Ryans insisted earlier this week when he met with the media types that safety is one of their deeper positions. We'll have to see. We'll have to see if Eric Murray, Graylin Arnold, MJ Stewart can fill the void, but they're going to have to do it. And they're going to have to figure some things out on the offensive line. Bobby Slowik, first-year offensive coordinator for the Houston Texans, by way of San Francisco, same position that Mike McDaniel had before he went to Miami, same type of path, similar-ish path that Mike LaFleur took before he went and became the Jets offensive coordinator, and now he's back with the Rams. So he was just kind of next in line, and he has a unique path. And when you hear him talk, he always has some pretty interesting things to say, Bobby Slowik, and he might actually make you feel better here. Bobby Slowik met with the media, and there are 4 concerns that I think Texans fans have heading into this game. Bobby Slowik addressed all 4 of those concerns, and on one of them specifically, I kind of believe what he's saying. Don't always believe what coaches say, but I kind of believe what he said. You'll hear that in a sec, but let's start with concern number 1, injuries. Injuries, part of the game. Next man up. You hear coaches say it all the time. Bobby Slowik is dealing with a few on offense. Here is Bobby Slowik heading into his first game as an offensive coordinator, talking about the injury impact with his offense.
I mean, really, by and large, it's the center spot, right? And kind of moving the pieces around. We got a lot of different people working at a lot of different places right now. And it's been that way for a little while, to be honest with you. I think you guys have seen that through training camp. It's definitely a part of how you look at the game plan process. You know, you have to be very aware. Everything we're doing as coaches at the end of the day is to put the guys in the best position they can be in to perform their best. So it's at the forefront of your mind, but at the same time, you got to be able to put the quarterback, the running backs, the receivers, the tight ends in the best position they can be in to perform at their best. So it's a balance act for sure, but it's something that's always there.
All right, so it doesn't seem too nervous about it. We'll see. I mean, it's easy to put up a front on that, and let's be honest. What has the Texans offensive staff been guilty of in recent memory. It's not putting guys in position to succeed, not making the most of what you got, whether it's maximizing good talent or maximizing inferior talent. For the most part, when the team has succeeded at the highest level in the last couple of long regimes, Kubiak, not even Kubiak, but Bill O'Brien, it was defense. Bill O'Brien, it was defense. And then, the offense wasn't going to be top half in DVOA. Deshaun was either going to save all butts or the defense was going to be the strength of the team. Maybe Bobby Slowik knows what he's doing. He doesn't seem too nervous on that. Did Bobby Slowik make you feel better about injuries? Put it in the comments. Be sure to subscribe, like, right along. Concern number 2, CJ Stroud. First game as a pro. Now, CJ Stroud has been in rowdy atmospheres. I actually thought Bobby Slowik did a really good job of going in depth on the difference between a rowdy college atmosphere and a rowdy pro atmosphere for a quarterback. And his thing is, it has as much to do with the huddle and taking the play as it does anything else. Because yes, there's a lot of times where you go to the big house and you go to Michigan and you have a rowdy ass crowd. You have a rowdy crowd. You have people that are yelling at you, cussing at you, and you can't hear yourself. But if you're not huddling, it's a little bit different than the pros. So while you could say, well, the big house is this loud and Baltimore's this loud, that's one of the main differences. Now, also, it's inevitable that most rookie quarterbacks are going to struggle. You always hear that Peyton Manning led all rookies all time in interceptions. You always hear that. And it's inevitable. But Bobby Slowik has always maintained pretty strong confidence in CJ Stroud. Even after his 2 worst practices, Bobby Slowik was confident. And since then, we've seen CJ Stroud take all of the first team reps, and we've seen him improve gradually. Here's Bobby Slowik. Concern number 2, Stroud first game. Bobby Slowik doesn't seem too worried about that.
Preparing this for CJ Stroud, but in the lead up to this, have you seen CJ checking the boxes that you wanted him to check at this point?
Yeah, I'd say he's done a fantastic job.
He loves CJ.
His preparation is off the chart.
Look at him lighten up, man. My man loves CJ, doesn't he? I got to think that Slowik had a big hand. Now, I don't know that he would make them, invest what they invested to get both Anderson and CJ, but I got to think Slowik had a big hand in the CJ Stroud thing with the way that he talks about him. Leading up to the draft, you got to think he was one of the guys just pounding the table for CJ.
He really means a lot to him. He puts a lot of time in. He puts a lot of work in. That's been a pretty consistent evaluation of him since he got here. He really grinds on football, and it shows as we go through this week, and he's honed in on who we're playing and what we're doing and really locked in on the game plan and our specific plays. He's had for about a week and a half now, every practice has gotten better and better and better, and it's been pretty sharp to begin with from his aspect.
All right, so there you go. There's him on CJ Stroud. You can tell he just loves him some CJ, Bobby Slowik. So the CJ Stroud situation, CJ Stroud making his first start and the injuries. Did Bobby Slowik make you feel better? Were you concerned about it to begin with? Go ahead and put that in the comments. Concern number 3. This is the one that people seem to be the most worried about. And this is the one where he actually won me over. The CJ stuff, the injuries, you can say a lot of that is just coaches speak and defending your players. But the confidence he showed in addressing this, because a lot of times coaches will just be dismissive. And they'll be like, yeah, next man up. Or we got to rely on these guys. But this is Bobby Slowik being asked about concern number 3, the state of the offensive line. How do you feel about this offensive line? Let's hear Bobby Slowik. And I got to tell you, I really believed him here.
Since he's been at that spot.
What is your level of confidence
with the O-line? Really good.
Really good.
Based on practice, which is all I can go off of right now. They've been locked in. They've been on it. They've handled everything we've given them. They've taken advantage of looks we need to take advantage of. They've handled issues where there's issues to be handled. They've done a really good job in practice.
All right, so there you go. So I believed him there. Really good. There wasn't a next man up. It wasn't, they've been good, really good. So did he make you feel better about the state of the offensive line? The injuries, Stroud first game, state of the offensive line. Did Bobby Slowik make you feel any better in those areas. Inexperience, that's another thing. No matter how good someone is at something in any profession, oftentimes there's struggles. Bobby Slowik's never called plays at the NFL level in a real game. He's only done it 3 times in his entire life. He did it in the preseason. Here's Bobby Slowik being asked about his inexperience as an offensive line and how he feels about that.
A lot about first when you look at CJ and Coach Nico Ryan's making their debuts. But how do you feel with this being your first official game as the offensive coordinator?
Yeah, I feel good. I mean, preseason definitely helps. I think it's the same for everybody. I've referenced this before when I was talking about the first preseason game against New England. I think the first time you're doing something, even if it's a hair different, a regular season game versus a preseason game, you feel that a little bit. The nerves go up a tad, but quickly, because of the training, they come back down and it's operation as normal. And I really anticipate that being pretty similar this game. I've mentioned before, I have a phenomenal support staff around me. Our offensive coaching staff does a great job helping me out in any way they can. So I feel good.
With the offense.
Right, so he feels good. There you go, Bobby Slowik. So did he make you feel better? Do you feel the same? Were you not concerned to begin with? Concern 1, injuries. Concern 2, Stroud first game. Concern 3, state of the O-line. Concern 4, the inexperience of Bobby Slowik. Subscribe, like, right along. It is the Locker Room, #1 source for Texans daily digital content. Of course, the big news is Jimmy Ward is not going to play. Should open up the field for Mark Andrews. However, maybe this could be canceled out because Mark Andrews is listed as questionable for Baltimore. Odell Beckham Jr. good to go. If Andrews is out, that's a big deal for the Texans, and that cancels out the Jimmy Ward thing. He's been practicing all week, so you got to anticipate he's going to try to go. It'll be interesting to see how that kind of holds up. You know how soft tissue injuries are. As far as OBJ, I actually think, and I know this sounds crazy, from a Texans point of view, I think it's a good thing that Odell Beckham Jr. is out there. If I wouldn't have said this 6 years ago, probably wouldn't even said this a year and a half ago. But at this point, a guy who hasn't played since the Super Bowl 2 years ago, a guy who's in a new system, a guy who's never played in a real game with Lamar Jackson, played in any game with Lamar Jackson because Lamar Jackson didn't play in the preseason. Just kind of how long it often takes quarterbacks to get on the same page with their receiver. And you remember Stafford and Odell Beckham Jr. That took a while. Now, it started clicking when they won a Super Bowl, but that took a while. And I think with Lamar and Odell, I think the charisma, the presence of Odell Beckham Jr., it kind of increases the pressure of trying to get him involved. And I don't think it's going to be as easy for him to get involved. So I actually think Odell Beckham Jr. being out there is a good thing for the Texans, at least week 1. I'm not saying that's going to be the case in week 5, 6, 7, but this much of a gap and how long it's been since he played, I actually think this is a good thing for the Texans. I also think Derek Stingley and Steven Nelson are more than capable of going toe-to-toe with Odell. What do you think? How do you feel about this Texans game? Do you feel any better based on what Bobby Slowik had to say? Are you panicking now that Jimmy Ward is out? Do you think that Jimmy Ward is the most significant injury? Be sure to put that in the comments. Subscribe, like, right along. We're 2 days away, 2 sleeps away from the start of the season. Post-game shows right after every game on the road, about an hour and a half after at home, because I got to go in the actual Texans locker room and see what they got to say after those games. So keep it locked here. We're in the mix. And no matter what happens when it comes to the Texans, we're all in this together. Appreciate you for coming through.
Digital on YouTube. We got taste for days. Opinions to give. We got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up. We #1. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every